Alrighty, welcome back, everyone. We just talked about a couple of big-time Big Ten matchups. We got Oregon, Michigan, as well as Indiana, Michigan State. A couple of undefeated teams out there that are just trying to stay undefeated. Oh, excuse me. I do think they both will definitely be something to watch where could have a couple of upset alerts out there. Definitely something that will be interesting and definitely will shake up the Big Ten in a hurry. But let's get into those top 11 matchups because there are a couple of really interesting ones here that definitely will have a lot to do with their conference matchups and could have plenty to do with what the CFP looks like at the end of the day. But we'll start with that Texas Tech-Iowa State game, a huge one out there in Ames, Iowa, where Iowa State's just looking to get to the end of the season. They're looking to be 11-0 when they walk into that Kansas State game because you do that, you're putting yourself in a very, very good spot. Now, you're in a really weird spot with the playoff where 11-1 in the Big 12 might not be enough, which sounds insane, but it might be the reality that you're staring down. But at the end of the day, you're in a position where you're undefeated, you're heading towards a Big 12 title. You just got to handle business against a team that is kind of sinking right now. Texas Tech has lost 2 straight. They have nearly bowed out of the Big 12 race. Actually, they should have been in the segment yesterday for the CFP with Virginia Tech because they technically still have a mathematical way that they can make the CFP. Now, I wouldn't bet on that by any means, but definitely something to keep your eye out on. Maybe Texas Tech has a little bit of a rabbit to pull out of their hat, but definitely will be something to watch. I think for this game, they're going to have to run the ball. That's just the way that they're going to have to go about business. Now, they're not necessarily going up against a team that is all that good at stopping the run. Iowa State is 88th in the country, 188 yards given up per game on the ground. So they definitely is something that you should be able to lean on in this game, especially with someone like Taj Brooks who is nearing 1,000 yards on the season. You should have an ability to run the ball, to keep this thing close, to slow down this game, and then possibly make those couple of plays. And then on the other side, you got an Iowa State defense that's 3rd in the country in pass. It's going to be an absolute nightmare. Somewhat that is to do with scheduling, but at the end of the day, they get tons of takeaways. They don't allow a ton through the air. If Texas Tech, which they like to pass, which is the funny thing about this game, where Texas Tech really likes to pass, Iowa State is worse against the run. Iowa State really likes to run the ball. Texas Tech is worse against the pass. So it's going to be interesting to see how these offensive coaches kind of approach this. But on the other side, the Penn State pass defense just has to play really good football. You have 2 wide receivers coming up that are absolute problems to deal with. And if you let them get free, then this could be the game where Rocco Beck just goes crazy and puts up insane numbers, kind of like Max Brosmer did a week ago at Minnesota, Maryland. Definitely something to watch here. But a couple of players to watch. I just think you have to get Abu Sama going if you want this Iowa State offense to really get off the ground. I think it's a very, very dangerous offense. It has a ton of very talented players. Those 2 wide receivers are incredible. If they're the only guys that are really scaring defenses, then you have a little bit of a problem. Now, they have plenty of running backs. They have guys that can get it done. I think Abu Sama is just the best athlete of the group. I think he has the ability to get out on the edge, make a couple of plays, had 89 total yards against UCF. He can be that 3rd down back that totally changes this team and gives them those couple of plays in this game that they're going to need on 3rd down, on 3rd and long, whatever that is. I think it's a very, very talented player and definitely one that could kind of just kick this offense up a little bit of a notch. And then you got Rylan Barnes, a linebacker for Iowa State, a freshman, very, very talented player, 3 tackles for loss against UCF, and one of those guys that absolutely can make every single play you possibly want him to. He's all over the field. He's going to be someone against this Texas Tech team where you're going to have to get Taj Brooks on the ground, and it is not an easy thing to do. Your linebackers are going to have to play really good football, and Rylan Barnes, probably main among them, is going to have to play really, really good football. And then you got Coy Eakin on the other side. When you talk about this Texas Tech team, they're going to like to throw the ball because they got about 4 wide receivers that can be absolute problems for you, Coy Eakin being one of them. Nearly 400 yards this year, a little bit more of that deep passing threat, a little bit more explosive than a couple of the other players on this team. And I think he gives this team a little bit more to deal with. You know, you have Caleb Douglas. You have... why am I blanking on his name? Josh Kelly, excuse me. You have Micah Hudson. You have guys that are going to cause problems for defenses. Having another guy on the outside that can just run deep and catch that big-time play is going to be a game changer in a game like this where you're going to need to make a couple of plays that don't make a ton of sense, that just kind of happen, that you just get a little bit of bounce of ball or you make that couple of plays downfield, whatever it is. Texas Tech has to make a couple of plays that don't make much sense in this game, and Coy Eakin absolutely will be at the center of all of that. And then you got CJ Baskerville on the back end of this Texas Tech defense, 3 INTs on the year. We talked about these wide receivers. They're going to be absolute nightmares to deal with, and that means those safeties are going to have to make big-time plays in the back end, have to get a couple of picks. He's got 3 on the year, so definitely something to watch as we head into this game, because if this pass offense gets going, it's going to be really, really hard to stop. But moving on to keys to the game, Iowa State's run defense is massive in this one. They're going to have to find a way to stop Taj Brooks, who has a 925 yards this year. It's one of those guys, kind of like a RJ Harvey over at UCF. He can make you hurt, and he can totally take over a game if you're not careful. So you're going to have to be very, very vigilant in this game, whether it's dropping a ton of guys into the box and making sure you stop the run, or playing a little bit of a hybrid. I don't know, because they're a pass-heavy offense. But as of right now, I think Texas Tech's going to have to ride Taj Brooks to a win here, and if they don't, then things could get interesting in a hurry. And then you do have the Texas Tech quarterback situation. Barron Morton looks like he is going to get the start in this one. How close to 100% is he? Do we see Will Hammond in this game? And if we do, will it be something different? Will it be a totally different offense, or will they run kind of the same thing? Definitely something to watch, because Barron Morton obviously a little bit more comfortable running this offense. I think Will Hammond is more than capable of making a number of those big-time plays that you're going to need in this game. But another thing is the clash of styles. We talked about it earlier. Iowa State is a run-first team, running the ball about 57% of the time. Texas Tech, 54% pass. So a little bit of a diatribe there, and definitely going to just come down to who can execute at a higher level, and we talked about it. Texas Tech is actually susceptible to the pass. Iowa State susceptible to the run. Who can kind of adapt to the weaknesses of their opponent and make those plays where they're maybe not quite as comfortable making those plays, whether it's Texas Tech on the ground or Iowa State through the air. But for me, I think Iowa State sends a message in this game. I think it's a lot like that Minnesota-Maryland game, not obviously in terms of the quality of team, but I do think Max Brosmer took full advantage of the opening that he had against that pass defense. I think Rocco Beck does the exact same thing in this game. I think he totally dominates them, probably goes for over 300 yards, and really puts on a show in this game. Excuse me, I apologize. Having a little bit of a throat problem today, but let's get into Louisville at Clemson, because this is a very interesting game. Clemson favored by a little bit more than 10 points, and definitely going to be a very interesting game for Clemson in particular, because you haven't necessarily played that big-time game, at least since Georgia. You haven't played that game that everyone can point to and say, that is a good team because they beat this person. That is a good team because they beat Miami, because they beat Louisville, because they beat, Syracuse or whoever it is this year. And they got a couple coming up against Virginia Tech and Pitt. So this will be handled. But at the end of the day, you're going to want to know how good this team is. You're going to want to know how real this team is, and definitely something to watch for this game. But for Louisville, you're pretty much out of the CFP race. There's almost no chance, mathematically even, that you get into the ACC title and find your way into the CFP. That being said, being able to spoil the fun for the team that actually is leaving your conference, or at least trying to leave, would be very fun, and definitely something that Louisville fans want to do. So going to be fascinating to watch this one. The Clemson offense is very, very balanced. They've done a really good job of just kind of getting everyone involved, getting the run game going with Phil Maffa, and then finding those receivers deep over the field. Antonio Williams has been remarkable this year, but overall, this is going to be the biggest test, and it's definitely going to be one that Louisville is going to pass the ball on you. They're going to push the ball downfield. It's going to be an interesting one where the Clemson offense has to just execute the way they've been executing. The Clemson defense might have to play a little bit better than they have in the last couple of games, because if they get beat a couple of times early, this thing could get interesting in a hurry, because this Clemson offense, although they are very, very good, we don't necessarily know what they look like coming from behind. We don't necessarily know what they look like when their backs are against the wall just a little bit. Maybe it opens a couple of doors for Louisville to win this game. But some players to watch. Bryant Wesco is such a problem on the outside for Clemson. He was out for a couple of games. I believe he will be back for this one, but 23.8 yards per catch. He is going to beat you deep. He has all the speed in the world. Definitely is someone that can cause problems for you, and I think for this Louisville team that is going to get up and down, is going to make at least a couple of plays downfield, you're going to have to find a way to kind of match that. You're going to have to find a way to make those couple of plays right after they did, and then take the little bit of the wind out of their sails. And I think Bryant Wesco is definitely going to be the guy they're targeting to do that. And then you got Avion Terrell. He has 7 pass breakups on the year, 2 INTs, a remarkable player, the brother of why am I AJ? Why am I blanking on that? But the brother of AJ Terrell, very talented player on the outside. And you look at this Louisville offense, he's going to get Ja'Cory Brooks a ton in this game. And he's going to get him going deep a ton in this game. Can he handle it? Is he, conditioned enough to handle that for 4 quarters? If he's not, then those couple of plays could sneak through. Then you got Isaac Brown on the other side, a very talented freshman running back for Louisville. We talk about the pass game, and we will talk about it. It's definitely something that you're going to watch for this game. Louisville's going to have to slow it down at some point. They're going to have to be able to find a balance in this game, and if they can't, then Clemson's going to be able to just kind of sit back and then pick off those deep balls pretty much whenever they want. You got to be able to suck a couple of those guys down into the box like an RJ Mickens on that back end and then throw over top of them. Definitely going to be something to watch, and I think Isaac Brown definitely has the capability to kind of take over this game in a way. And then you got to get something from Ashton Galati. He's a very talented player. He's a player that can totally take over this game. He has not this year. He has not been the player that they needed him to be, really this entire defense. But Ashton as well has definitely been someone that they're going to need to step up in this game. They're going to need to really eat up that run game if they're going to have really any shot in this one. And Galati's got to be at the very center of that. But moving forward to the keys of the game, because the biggest one we talked about it a second ago. Can Louisville find a balance on offense? Can they find a way to get that run game going? Because they're 10th in the country in pass yards per game. That's all well and good. When you're playing a defense like Clemson that has all of the defenders that they do on the back end, you're going to have to find a way to pull them in. You're not just going to beat them because you have the ability to throw downfield. You're going to have to beat them by kind of scheming this up and kind of baiting them and doing different things in the run game that then gives you the openings in the pass game that you're going to need. And then you got the Clemson. Are they 100% real? Do we feel good about this Clemson team going forward? Or are they a team that played Georgia, got dominated, and then has not played necessarily a big-time opponent since? It'll be something that is definitely really interesting to watch. I tend to believe that they're real, but at the end of the day, that could all come crashing down in a hurry on Saturday. And then explosives. We've talked about it time and again during this segment, but it is going to be the way that this game is decided. Whether Louisville can hit or not hit those plays are going to be the difference in this one. And frankly, I think it's going to be really hard to hit the number of plays that they're going to need to in this game. I think that Louisville defense is all over the place, does not necessarily have much of an identity, and if you don't have an identity against this Clemson team, you're going to get torn to pieces. So I am going to go Clemson in that one. I'm going to bet on both those 11 seeded teams to get those wins, move on, continue on their way to possibly a conference title, but definitely something to watch this upcoming weekend. But let's take our third break here, and when we come back, we got to talk about those top 10 teams in the country and just what do we need to see from them this upcoming weekend. We'll break it down right after this.